now this ePrivacy issue is also meant to be passed as a regulation. Until now, we have ePrivacy Directive. You know, it was really created in 2002 when nobody knew anything about social media and all other things. It was complemented in 2009, but even then, words have been changed in these 8 years, so that the new situation of everybody of us in the digital world is demanding also a comprehensive e-privacy protection system. And for that, I suppose everybody agrees that it should be regulation, not directive. It should be the similar level, similar rules for everybody all over Europe or European Union people also traveling, or businesses from outside making services for people belonging to EU, so that we will know that whatever will happen, our e-privacy is well protected. Very often, as we are working now on this file from January already, and we are approaching now final stage. Next Wednesday, on 21st of June, I will present in Parliament Libe Committee the Parliament draft on this new e-privacy regulation. The base for that is a Commission's draft. I hope that some of you at least, have been read this draft. And we have to be very, in this sense, thankful to Commission, because this was very good beginning of the work. But I have to say that after meeting with more than maybe around 100 of different stakeholders, and having made 5 roundtables, and discussed with very, very different people, this draft, we have got quite comprehensive understanding of the main, unsolved or controversial issues, as for from the consumer side as from the industry side. And when we got from Commission this draft, then you saw also who have read that there were the impact assessment, and customers and users and the industries have controversial assessments, almost really crossing each other. What is now our Parliament task, as always in Parliament, we have to find the balance. We have to now take both sides and bring them in the middle, so that we will ensure the privacy is protected, but from other side also we give industries confidence and motivation to go further, to find new competitive advantages and to develop European technologies which are safe for customers. Already in GDPR we have very much focused on privacy by default and privacy by design. And even more now, with this ePrivacy regulation, at first we tried to put very strongly privacy by default principle, but from other side we also very much call industries to find new ways for the privacy by design, and specifically on the solving issues with consent. Because you know that consent, from one side, if we speak about privacy of communication, that's a basic principle. None of us want that our telephone calls are be overheard and tapped somewhere. People who have been in the eastern side of Europe remember KGB and Stasi, and remember how we all used our telephones so that nobody could be aware, not secured. We knew that always somebody was listening and tapping. And that's a feeling in our body. And that really what we want to prevent, that in this new digital world it will be as easy to tap and to intercept our communications. And everybody knows that it is very, very difficult now, when we have hundreds and even maybe thousands of different companies and different, actors in the digital world, having technologies which really gives them opportunity to see and to remember our contacts and our communications. And for that, what we think the consent principle is very important, it's crucial. But to be aware of all those hundreds of requests and to be informed and to have a time even to think it over and make meaningful choices, it is more and more difficult for person. So what we call technologies, we call developers, we call our companies to think about the solutions for the consent management, for privacy by design, which is secure. It should be as secure as when we go to the airplane. We will not have ourselves check all machine and gene. We know that there is a certain demand, certain standard. We hope that Europe will have the privacy standard, which will be the best in the world, which give European technologies the best competitive advantage, and will be for customers, for citizens also guarantee that the privacy as a basis for democracy and basis for the individual freedom will be safe. And now, after all those unfortunate experiences with so-called Cambridge Analytics helping to win elections, and with all these other interventions, we see that it's not only the problem of, say, individual psychological security, it's also a problem of really secure development of democratic institutions. Without privacy, there will be no democracy. And for that, it's not only the problem of customers, the problem of citizens, the problem of democratic Europe at all. Though I hope that we will find good solutions. I hope that in October we vote on plenary. I am convinced that our team in Parliament is working hard also through summer, so that really we come in October to the final text. And then we hope that the Council, all member states, will also be, say, ready to work on that, because I understand that the crucial points are all known. And as I said in our text, we try to solve already some of them. And solutions are possible and available, so that I hope that we will have very good draft and very good regulation in the end. And I'm very glad to be here on panel together with people from technologies, because having contacts and dialogues permanently with them, we already have seen some very, very good developments already, maybe ahead of our say, proposals. And I think that that's most important, to have really this good and, say, human ideas implemented in good and human technologies. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? This is microphone. Here we go. Okay. Hi, I'm John. I'm from Telefonica, and I'm going to spend apparently 7 minutes telling you our story. So pay attention. It's going to go quickly. The first thing to observe is that digital life is now life itself. There's no distinction between the online world and the real world. And everything we do leaves behind digital footprints, things that tell personal stories about each and every one of us. Telefonica thinks very positively about this. So privacy is absolutely vital, but we have to balance that with the societal, business, and individual benefits that data can bring. And we could spend the whole time talking about hundreds of examples of how we help people enrich their lives. Let's pick a couple. The smiley sad face on the left. Interesting that your telecoms data could help manage bipolar disorder, where you switch between being very manic and happy and depressed. Simply by the amount of time you spend communicating and moving, your doctor can manage your medication. In Latin America, a different example, we have 60 or 70% of our customers unbanked, no access to financial services. Their mobile history can give them a credit rating that gives them access to formal finance, which is much, much cheaper. So if a child falls ill or you want to start a business, your historic mobile data can make that possible. Moving across to the sort of anonymous, more the crowd side of things rather than the personal side of things, we have the transportation, the tourism, the city investments, where billions of euros can be optimized based on the movement of people around towns, the movement of people between countries. On a similar level, surprising, again, another medical example, some work in Latin America, in Brazil, if you remember Zika virus and H5N1. Mobile data can help us understand how people move around the country. That knowledge and those insights help NGOs and governments tackle epidemics, knowing where resources need to go and how effective their movement issues are. There's a lot more we could talk about. In the interest of 7 minutes, let's move on. Unfortunately, if you ask customers what data means to them, they don't come up with that long list of examples. A lot of it's very negative, and we failed as corporations and as governments in explaining the benefits of a data-driven society. Only 3% of people are completely comfortable with how those organizations are using their data. And 70% of people admit to not having a clue how those organizations are using their data. And is that surprising? Well, the biggest lie on the internet is, I have read. We think there are hundreds of things we can do for our customers to help them through their data. And we need artificial intelligence to show them the thing that helps them in that moment, in that context, at just the right time. Otherwise, they'll be overwhelmed. There'll be permission fatigue. And Aura does that in 3 ways. Aura has 3 powers. The first is, you can talk to technology and get things done. You don't have to call a call center to ask about your balance or your billing inquiries. Ask Aura in 5 seconds, it's done. Because it works across all of our services, you can ask it to use your data to enrich your experiences. So ask about when can I watch a certain program on TV, it tells you. Ask them to change your Wi-Fi settings or set up a personal network or turn on parental controls because it's the kid's bedtime. Literally, those statements to your phone or another device, and it happens. The second power is transparency. We think transparency, not through 2,500-word terms and conditions, is vital to trust. Transparency needs to come from people seeing in a few words, in this case on a timeline, what data is being collected, how it benefits them, and how they can stop, pause, or delete it. Simple. And the third and final power is putting that data to work. Citizens need to be able to see how it benefits them. So we're working with external partners and developing lots of internal services to give them peace of mind through things like Facebook Safety Check. A feel-good and societal benefit from working with companies, organizations, I should say, like UNICEF around the epidemic things. But also generating value for themselves. Cheaper car insurance using your mobile movement data to allow insurers to price you more effectively, and so on. So in summary, we have a very positive attitude to data. Privacy is absolutely essential if our customers are to trust us and stay with Telefonica. But we also think there are lots of positive benefits from starting with the customer and using the data to help them. And that's only possible if we're open, transparent, and clear to our customers. And that's what Aura is going to do. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Gary Davis from Apple. Thank you very much to Rosa for inviting us along, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share the stage with Ms. Laurestein and my other esteemed colleagues here. I'm not a digital envoy like John is, so I don't have the ability to move around stage and be generally compelling like that. So I manage privacy legal in Apple, and these are the things which I do every day to try and make our user experience better. So we have some core beliefs as we go about our daily routine of making sure we can make privacy work for you. And as I look out here, I see plenty of Apple devices actually shining back at me here today. And we see privacy as fundamental to the design of all of our products, hardware, and services. We try to ensure that individuals can take control of their data, that they can make decisions. They should know everything about what we're doing with their data. And where we're collecting their data, if we can, we feel we've already embodied these privacy by design principles of if we're collecting data, such as John mentioned, Maps data. In our Maps application, we use anonymous rotating identifiers. We use identifiers not linked to your Apple identity for Siri and we do the same across our news service and part of our Spotlight service, because we realized that we actually didn't need to provide that service in a way in that we can link the data to individuals. And in fact, in iOS 11, and Rosa was prompting us to talk a little bit about some of our new developments, we are now going to use some end-to-end encryption to move data between your devices in a way that we as Apple will not be able to see that data, because we felt, hey, we don't need to see that data, we just need to provide a service to our users. And so we feel we're in a good place in relation to the GDPR particularly, and the principles of privacy by design and privacy by default. And that is why, you know, we're looking forward to that also in the context of the privacy regulation, and I'll come back to that in a while. So when we've built these privacy by design features into our products, we feel we did it not because a law required us to do it, because in fact we didn't have the GDPR on the books, we didn't have the privacy regulation on the books, but we did it because it was simply the right thing for our customers to do. And in many respects, that embodies where we're at. We want to ensure that our customers trust how to use our products and services, and we see privacy as fundamental to that. So just last week, we made an update to our Safari web browser, which we announced at our Worldwide Developers Conference we call WWDC internally. Safari was already, from our perspective, the leading privacy browser, and that we were the first browser to block third-party cookies by default and to offer private browsing. But now we've potentially introduced something that might be revolutionary in terms of how users surf the web. And we call it intelligent tracking prevention. And it's on your iOS device, and it's also on your Macs, which I see all around the room. And so when you use Safari on your devices, we will now be enabling users to, by default, block what the intelligent tracking prevention feature decides are third-party cookies, which are not designed to enhance the experience on that site. And we're using on-device intelligence through machine learning, not something that's coming back to us in Apple, but actually happening right there on your device in order to make that decision for you as to what are the cookies designed to enhance your experience on a site, and what are third-party cross-site scripting cookies, which you see as you go around the internet, and which are trying to track you as you go around. Because I think you're all familiar with the experience. You look at something on the internet, and then you keep offered it here, everywhere. And so you're being followed around the internet, and so we think this might be a great way to empower users to actually have control of what's coming onto their device. Okay, so, and again, I guess this is an area whereby we were working on this. Our engineers in Cupertino were working away on it for the last long period of time. We did it because it's the right thing for our users. We know the law is actually aiming to encourage behavior of this type, but in many respects, I suppose I personally have a concern that a law by its nature will be overly specific. And by being overly specific, the law may in fact get in the way, albeit unintended, of the type of innovation which we want to continue to offer. So that's why I am worried about solutions within the privacy regulation which may be specific and focused on the technology of today rather than the possibilities of the future. Okay, so in terms of the ePrivacy regulation, I think I am allowed to briefly talk about it, Rosa, albeit it wasn't done. So in terms of where we see, we think, so we are huge supporters of the ePrivacy regulation. We think it will assist users in controlling their data, but we do see areas where it could be strengthened. So one is we'd like to think that the rules should be limited to communications data. Already, as I look at commentary on it, I think there's a potential to conflate ePrivacy with GDPR, and conflate it in a way that actually may not be helpful to users and to companies in terms of understanding what is the division between the two. But I know that's something that Ms. Laurstein is working hard on. And we might say this, we think there should be more incentives for privacy by default. So we think we are working hard on privacy by default. We think we are achieving a lot there. But actually, there's no incentive within the current setup of the article, albeit again, Ms. Laurstein is moving in the direction of creating that, to actually produce something like intelligent tracking prevention, because we are actually, in terms of the current reading of the article, we're encouraged to ask a user whether they agree with a setting, even if that is the most privacy-sensitive setting. So in fact, we would have to say to users, hey, do you want less privacy? Here, tick this box here. I don't think that makes sense, and I don't think it's probably what lawmakers intended in relation to it. We also, in terms of consent, we collect consent from our users. We think it's the right way to empower them, as I mentioned earlier. But I do worry that a focus on consent that is perhaps based again in the technologies of the past is not the best way forward. We can already see that there are a number of devices that users are using which require a spoken interface. And therefore, I think we can conclude that that's going to continue to be the way of the future. So I think if we all become fixated on things like icons and the amount of information that's actually presented on a screen, we may actually lock ourselves into a situation whereby this potential to have interaction between the user in a way that's natural to the product may in fact be lost. Finally, and you probably expected me to comment on it, we are worried about the provisions in the ePrivacy regulation in Article 11 in relation to providing a potential for member state laws to introduce provisions that would require retention of metadata and which would require interception of end-to-end encrypted communications. Now, this may not have been the intention, it may be an unintended consequence of a pre-existing article, but we are certainly very worried about it. And I know, so we feel that that provision, if left as is in the law, could have huge and very negative consequences for all of our users. So in relation to encryption, just to pause on it quickly, some people will still argue that you can actually create a backdoor into encrypted technology. We hear it the whole time. You just flick a switch and you can then access the content for law enforcement when you need to do it. It's not true. We cannot do it. If we create a weakness in our security, it's a weakness created in all instances, and it's one then that can be exploited by other people for negative purposes. These are accepted, and this is, I guess, why we feel so strongly about it. Of course, that's why I welcome the amendment to Article 17 that I read on the plane coming here yesterday from Ms. Laurstein, that actually provides an explicit, on the face of the regulation, requirement that end-to-end encryption should not be undermined. And I'm very thankful for that, and hopefully that's something that will stick in the provision. Of course, I don't wish for Apple to appear to be not recognizing that the world today does face serious security threats from criminals and terrorists who challenge our shared commitment to a peaceful and productive future. We do, in fact, work closely with law enforcement to provide the actual data that is in our possession. And we've been doing that most recently in relation to some of the UK attacks. And when we receive those requests, and if we do actually have the data, we do actually work around the clock to actually provide that data, because that is the right thing to do. But regardless of that, whether you're a legislator, a law enforcement officer, or working in the technology sector like us, we must understand that when we're responding to incidents such as that, that we do not undermine the security of the many in order to deal with one specific incident. And that's why we hope the Commission, Parliament, as we've seen already, and the wider community can actually try and strike that right balance that understands the role that encryption plays. Thanks very much, and I think I've gone over. Apologies, Rosa.
Hello? No. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. Roberto and I are representing here the H2020, the Horizon 2020 project types. And in Europe, we have made a strong regulation effort. We have the ePrivacy, we have the GDPR, and this regulation tries to protect the rights of European citizens in terms of privacy and data protection. So now it's time to really bring this effort into practice. That means that the R&D community in Europe has to provide citizens, mostly internet users, with tools that allow them understanding how online companies are using their personal data and how they can protect themselves against potential unethical uses. So in the TICE project, we are focusing mostly in the online advertising sector because this is the market that is using personal data the most. We have created a set of practical tools that, for instance, aligning to the Article 10 of the ePrivacy, informing users of what are the trackers and third parties present in those websites they are visiting. Another set of tools are informing end users of the economic value associated to their personal data, because let's be honest, there is no free services. We are just paying those services with a different currency, which is our personal data. So here you see the website, and if you are interested on any of these tools, you can visit and you can go to installation links through our website. We have created a second website that is called testyourprivacy.eu. In this portal, we introduce average internet users to privacy concepts in a simple manner. We explain them what are the associated risks, and we provide them links to tools that might help them to protect their personal data. This website is linking to our tools, the tools we have developed in TICE project, but it's also linking to other external tools that might eventually help users on understanding better how their personal data is used or protect themselves. So now what we are going to do is presenting two of the tools we have developed, and we are going to make a live demo of these tools. So let's see if everything works fine. So I give the floor. We need to make the testing from the technician tables. So I give the floor to my colleague, Roberto González, which is already there. The mic there? No. No, it doesn't work. Can you pass the mic?
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for not being there. The first tool we are going to present is I Wonder, which is a tool that is intended to both inform the user about the ads the user is seeing, and also to allow the user to block specifically some tools. So let's say, for example, that I go to my favorite sport web page, that is as.com, that is the main sport web page in Spain. So if the Wi-Fi allows us, we see that in this web page we see some advertisement in some places. So now our plugin is working and is analyzing the web page, and we can see that this has been able to identify that this is an ad, and it allows the user to click in the ad and get some information. That, for example, that this ad eventually takes the user to YouTube, to a video of YouTube, and that is about art and entertainment. Okay, but not only that, we also want to allow the user to block the trackers or the other information that doesn't want to share. And for that, in the plugin, we have an option that show all the third-party domains that are in this web page. So all these domains you have here are third parties that appear in that sport web page, and we can allow the user to classify them. This is now going to our database and classifying them in trackers on ad servers, so we can allow the users to tell, okay, I want to block yeah, thank you. To block all of them, to block the ad servers and the trackers. Okay, there are a lot of them. as you can see. And when the user has blocked them, we have 17 there. Now, if the user browse again to this web page, we will not see the ads anymore. So the tool has the option to disable the blocking, and if that happens, we will have the ads again. So this is not much different than other tools, but we want to have a much fine granularity for the user to can block specific things. So, for example, when I go to my favorite conference web page, here we have a widget of Twitter and a widget of Facebook, right? And here I have photos of my friends because Facebook knows that I'm going to this web page, and Facebook is tracking me in this web page. So in this case, we have added a rule that if I enable the blocking again, we have added a rule that is blocking Facebook from tracking me, but still allows me to go to Facebook without any problem. So I hope my friends are not publishing anything weird. How I close this? Okay, so now Angel is going to explain you the second tool.
Okay, so we have created a second tool that, let me see if I can close the chat, that basically tries to inform end user of an estimation of the revenue they generate for Facebook while they are browsing in this website. So when you browse in Facebook, you see that you have ads on the right side of the wall, but also you have ads in your newsfeed. Okay, so by the fact of receiving these ads, we are already generating money for Facebook. Obviously, you can click through these ads, and you will be generating even more money. So if you click on our plugin that is called FDBT, Data Valuation Tool for Facebook Users, let me click on it. We will show a simple yet meaningful information for users. So at the top in red, you see the revenue this user, Roberto, has generated from the moment he installed the plugin. Later, we break down this information, and we inform the user of how many ads has been displayed during the session and what is the value generated due to this display, and how many times the user has clicked through an ad and what is the value he or she generated. This is basically, we use a small profile of the user, and the revenue he or she generated is based on his personal or her personal profile. Later, we also inform the user of the value they have generated in this session, today, last 7 days, last 30 days, and we allow them to share this information in Twitter. Unfortunately, we have the same functionality for Facebook, but we don't know why Facebook doesn't like a lot this tool, and they raise a complaint to Google Chrome, a trademark complaint, so we avoid using their logo there. This tool is available. You can go to the Types website, and you will redirect it to the tool website. You can download it. It's available for Google Chrome and Firefox. Already more than 5,000 people has installed it. And we want to close our slot saying that, I mean, creating this type of tools is something challenging, but it's something useful. And we think, and we strongly believe, that user has the right to know how their personal data is being used. So thank you very much.
I would have liked to say that now we will open for questions. I was hoping that we will have 5 minutes, but I think the time has come that we have to stop because the next session starts in 15 minutes and new people will come. So I would like to, that we all of us thank the speakers. I think it has been extremely helpful, very, very interesting to hear about this practical experience of user empowerment, and also to hear Mrs. Lauristein's views on her report. So please, a big applause to all of them. I hope that you can continue the discussion on bilateral with them. I think you will find them here. So thank you very, very much.